welcome everyone to the Ignite Change workshop. Thank you so much for coming today and spending an hour with us, or your lunch break with us, whatever it's looking like for you today on a Wednesday. We're really excited for you to be here, and we're hoping today will be really engaging and interactive. So as we mentioned, we're recording today for those that can't make it, and for everyone here, if you want to watch back as well, that would be amazing. So hopefully it'll be really interactive, thought-provoking and inspiring for you, whatever the change you would like to make. Those are going to be individual changes. Myself and Caroline also have made changes that are individual, so we're going to share those with you today as well. And we'd really like to encourage you to interact on the chat while we're going through today. So let's kick off with that, around what your intentions are for being here today. What was it that kind of made you press register on this and turn up today? So if you could find the chat box in the bottom there. Oh, no worries, Rachel, that's okay. Her webcam doesn't like Zoom. Okay, so yeah, what are your intentions for being here? What was it that made you want to reach out and sign up to today's session? What kind of changes are you hoping to make? What is it that you're kind of wanting to get out of today, really? I guess we would love to know, because that will help us to really make this as bespoke as possible for you, so that you get the most out of this hour as possible. So pop in the chat for me. What is it that you really want to get out of today? Why are you here? What is it that you want to kind of focus on today? What will you be thinking about when we're talking about change? Let's have a look, see what's coming through. Everyone's typing away, I can see them. If anyone's brave enough to put their hand up and speak to us not on the chat as well, that's totally allowed as well. Rachel says it's a big question. Yeah, absolutely. Theme it for us if you don't want to go into detail, just maybe work or life or balance or whatever it might be. Casey wants to feel inspired. Paula, inspiration to get out of what I consider to be a rut. Yeah, absolutely. How to make decisions when there's so many options. Yeah, that can feel overwhelming, can't it? We've got somebody going through a redundancy process. Oh my goodness, wait until I share my story. You'll hear all about that. What is it? Have their own business. So they're thinking of growing that. Yes, that sounds wonderful. Someone else has put perhaps changing things in work to be a bit more manageable. Yes, absolutely. There's lots going on at the moment. Wanting for it to be sustainable. Yes, I'm all for that. I think the word sustainability often gets used in like a financial way or a like a funding way, but well-being is so important in terms of sustainability, definitely. Lovely. Oh, so many good things. Can you see them, Caroline? What are you thinking?
Yeah, amazing. It's wonderful, isn't it, to see all of this, and I think it's so important to get really connected with our intentions when we at the beginning of something like this. So yeah, kind of really thinking about it and sharing it. And also there's something about making a proclamation to a group, right? It's like, here, this is the change I want to make. It's really powerful. And I love this comment. Stupid imposter syndrome. Yes, stupid imposter syndrome. So frustrating and can get in the way. We'll definitely talk about that, won't we, as well?
Yeah.
But yeah, look, really, I'm feeling very inspired reading through all of those, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. That's super helpful to guide us in what we're going to be talking about today. So as you will have seen on our many emails and getting you up to date on what we're going to be talking about today, it's myself and Caroline here with you today, both experienced coaches in the charity sector. So I'm going to kick off by letting Caroline introduce herself, and then I'll tell you a bit about me after that.
Thank you. Thanks, Bethany. Hi, everyone. So, yes, I'm going to introduce myself, and I'm going to tell you a bit of a story about how I find myself here doing what I'm doing now, talking to you about igniting change. So I'm a coach, a facilitator, trainer, and I'm work primarily for the charity sector, within the charity sector, supporting people, organisations, teams to really deliver their impact and thrive. That's something I'm very, very passionate about, is how we can do both of those things, right? Make an impact and be well and thriving in ourselves. I'm really passionate about the sector. I've worked in the sector for over 20 years in various organisations, and now working back as I work for myself, so supporting the sector from outside. And I really experienced the highs and the lows of working in the charity sector. I would say the highs for me are the people that I get to work with, the people I get to be inspired by, you know, absolutely incredible people I've worked with over the years and continue to support now. Absolutely. The best thing for me about the sector is the people it draws in. Incredible and inspiring, and I've got to deliver some amazing projects in my time in the sector and help people make changes, and it's all, you know, what drives me, it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I absolutely love it. And I've experienced some of the lows. So for me, that was, I suppose, the lowest low for me was the a brush with burnout that I had in 2017, where I was leading a national team in a large organisation, large charity, and I never stopped. Basically, it was impossible to switch off. I found it impossible to switch off. I was always either doing or thinking about work, and it was exhausting me. I felt kind of I was failing on all fronts. You know, I don't know if that kind of resonates for some of you. I know I hear people say it a lot, but my children were quite young. I've got 2 daughters. They were young at the time, and I really felt like I wasn't showing up well for anyone. But I felt very stuck in that, and it took a bit of a wake-up call for me. So it was my youngest daughter, Martha, who helpfully gave me that wake-up call. One Saturday morning, we were at a swimming lesson, and I was sitting, waiting for the swimming lesson to start. I was sitting on the floor, staring into space, thinking about work. And God knows what it was now, I have no idea, but something that had happened or something that was said, you know, and it was going around in my head. And I felt these 2 chubby little hands grab my face. He looked me direct in the eye and said, "Mummy, sometimes people are sad." Oh. So off she toddles to a swimming lesson, no backward look. I'm left with this kind of like truth bomb exploded all over my face, and I kind of tried to push it away, but it was the truth right in front of me. I was really unhappy, and it really made me stop in my tracks and think, you know, is this what I want? Is this what I want for my life? Is this the model I want to be for my daughters? And it was a resounding no, was the answer. And it was that moment that really woke me up, that I was like, something here has to change. And a few months later, I'd left my job. I had 2 months completely off to recover physically, mentally, emotionally from the impact of burnout. And then I went to work with a coach to figure out what on earth I was going to do with my life. That's when Deliver Grey was born, and I haven't looked back. I absolutely love doing the work that I do now. And my only regret is that it took things to get that bad for me to make the change. And if I could change anything, with hindsight, would be to have made a change sooner. So yeah, that sort of gives you a bit of a sense of why I'm here and what I'm all about. Bethany, over to you.
Oh, amazing, Karen. Thank you. That made me really emotional. If anyone's also pinned me, they can see. I've got a daughter myself, so I just could totally put myself in that position. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing that, Caroline, because I think, you know, change is super hard, isn't it? And I think we are, yeah, it's really lovely to hear your example of what kind of made you make that change. So pull myself together and introduce me. So I'm Bethany. I'm the founder of Owen Coaching. I've worked in the charity sector my whole career, really. I started out in telephone fundraising and have worked for many different charities like British Red Cross, Wales Millennium Centre, Frank Water. So lots of different causes in predominantly fundraising roles. And when it got to 2019, I had quite a big promotion where I was working at the time. And at the same time, in the same week, the head of our team also left. So I was kind of in a position where I'd been given a double promotion, was all of a sudden very senior, and didn't really have the support around me that I needed to navigate that role whilst also looking after my own well-being. So at that point I sought coaching, and that coach just changed everything for me. She walked with me through that process as a confidant, really, and somebody that I could really speak to outside of everything in work. A year later, the pandemic hit, and I was working in a live events venue, so you can imagine how that went. I was put on furlough, which for me, in a very relationship focused role when I was looking after donors, was a real shock, actually, because it wasn't just me stopping work, it was me stopping communicating with my colleagues, everyone that I was looking after, all of the donors, everything. So it was a real kind of identity crisis for me, actually, at that point, and I completely lost purpose, and really struggled. And I can remember sitting at home in my tiny little flat in Cardiff thinking, what am I going to do with my time now? And it was really challenging. And at that point, I thought back to two conversations I'd had in my life many years before. And those conversations were with my grandmothers. And the conversations were around what they did during the war. They were quite older grandparents. One of them was a Wren in World War II. So she was stood up on the buildings in Plymouth, my hometown, ringing the alarm when she saw planes. And I thought, wow, that's incredible, how inspiring. And my other grandmother, you know, taking in refugees into their rural village in Devon. And I just thought those narratives have always inspired me in my life to be of service, to have a purpose. And I desperately didn't want my future children or my future grandchildren to ask me when they're learning about the pandemic in school, what did you do during the pandemic? And for my response to be that I sat on the sofa and watched Netflix whilst on furlough. So that gave me a big shake up and made me think, right, what can I do? What do I have control over? And I think at the time we all felt we didn't have control over much, did we? Particularly if we were put on furlough or we were having to work from home all of a sudden, there was a lot of control taken away from us. So I really focused on what I could control. So I started volunteering for other organisations, using my skills as much as I could, which then led to freelance work. And then I retrained as a coach, and set up my business in 2020. And that, you know, three and a half years ago now, has led me to working for myself. I now have a family of my own, and the balance that I have now between my work and looking after my toddler is just exactly what I could have wanted. So as much as it was a challenging situation from COVID, it's a definite success story for me, even if it meant being made redundant for the first time before I was 30. So that was quite enough for me, I think. So that's mine and Caroline's stories of change, big moments happening in our lives to kind of give us a bit of a shake up and make it so that we went in a very different direction, really, than what we perhaps intended. So we'd love to hear from you. I know you've kind of put in the chat today about some of your intentions. We would love to hear a little bit more from you on what the challenges that you're facing at the moment. Caroline shared that it was kind of burnout, which I've definitely got experience of prior as well. Mine was more a story of kind of losing purpose, feeling very unmotivated and having to really dig deep to find that purpose again. So for yourselves on the call today, you know, we've got a great turnout. We've got 15 of you in the room, which is incredible. And that's, yeah, you know, a big step that you've taken to join the call today. So in the chat, and I won't, for the recording, I won't mention you by name, but let us know in the chat what changes or what challenges you are facing at the moment, so that we can kind of support you through that today. Even if it's just one word: stress, overwhelm, disalignment, whatever it might be. Could you put some ideas for us in the chat of what challenges you're facing that make you want to make a change today?
Thank you for sharing your story, Bethany, as well. It's great to hear that. It's really, and someone said here, it's great to hear someone talk about furlough, because it's actually was such a big thing, wasn't it? It had such a big impact on so many people, and it's almost something we don't
Got swept under the carpet a little bit, hasn't it?
And yeah, I definitely think that the implications still being felt.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah.
Someone's put, I've reached the point where I can only stand still. Moved into a very senior leadership, or I either move into a very senior leadership role, or I go freelance. I'd like to go freelance, but not sure that I'm brave enough yet. Brave step. I would say though that I felt it was a very brave step at the time when I did it, but having been made redundant 3 times before I was 30, this now feels more secure to me than previous roles. So it does feel like a big step, and it is a big step, and I don't want to take it away from that, but it is, you can make it stable with support, definitely. Overwhelm and uncertainty. Thank you for sharing that. Feel like there's some big decisions to be made. Yes, absolutely. That's what change is all about, isn't it? Making those big changes, making those big decisions. Oh, someone said, I've leapt into fundraising. It's possible, you can do it. I love that. We're already being cheerleaders for each other. That's amazing. Directionless. Oh, that's a very good descriptive word. Worked in similar roles for 10 years. Don't think I want to be promoted in this kind of team, but I don't know what else to do. Okay. Freelance.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at someone here's talking about being at risk of burnout, and is describing what I think many people will find familiar, sort of stepping up to a more senior role and then having to cover, covering roles within the team, working, learning as you go, dealing with challenges for the first time, being understaffed, the really sort of familiar challenges from the sector that, so often we're kind of really stretched in our kind of what's expected of us and what we can manage, and kind of really being able to hold all of that. It can be so challenging. Absolutely. Stress at work. Yeah. Physical health. Yeah.
Caring responsibilities and working as a freelancer, that's challenging, definitely. Time for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a really challenging. So there's a lot here coming up around sort of decision making. So when you're at that point of what do I do next, what's the right, and I think we can get so I'll speak for myself. I know I got stuck in what's the right choice now, and often the right choice felt like the safest choice. You can kind of feel like, oh well, I know this, so I'll stay with it. And this idea that something new and different is not quite so safe, so maybe I'll stay around. But even when that feels challenging, and also boundary, there's something about boundaries and being able to make space and time for ourselves. Is when we don't have that, when we're feeling very stressed, when we're feeling under pressure and spreading ourselves thin, actually having the space to sit back and think about what do I want to do next can become really challenging. What do I actually want? And that's a question I think that we can forget to ask ourselves. But also it needs a bit of space and time, right, to really think about it. And I think that's, for me, I was talking about kind of constantly on the go. I was on the hamster wheel, so I didn't really put my head up to think about, is this even what I want? It was just where I was, and I kind of felt like, well, this is just how life is, and it feels very stuck.
I think it's sometimes about redesigning what success looks like for ourselves as well, because I know throughout my career I always looked at the most senior person in the room, and kind of that was my North Star. When I was at school, I thought, great, I'll be a teacher. When I was at uni, I thought, oh, I'll be a lecturer. When I worked for a charity, oh, director of fundraising or CEO, that's what I'm aiming for. That was always my aim. And actually it took me kind of really losing my purpose, losing that through redundancy and furlough and all of that, to really actually reassess what my North Star is. And for me to kind of have those conversations with myself and with my coach to really decide what is it that success looks like for me, what is my purpose, and what do I want to be doing, what do I want my life to look like, wider than just our purpose within work. What is it that we want to carve out for ourselves? We're only here for a very short amount of time. Our careers feel long, but they're short, you know, and it's important that we're aligned with our values and really doing what we should be doing, and having a North Star that's really aligned with our values can really support that, I think, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of this and what we're experiencing, and imposter syndrome came up earlier, but often when life feels like this, work feels like this, like it feels, we can either feel stuck, or we're stretching ourselves so thin, or where do I really have my impact? We can start to kind of internalize it, and it impacts on our confidence. You know, especially when we feel, if we do feel like, oh, you know, am I in the right place? Is this working? We can start to really feel that in how confident we feel in our roles, and those imposter feelings start showing up, and then that makes change even harder to make, right? Because it's like, well, can I even? So we can get into sort of quite an cycle. And Bethany, you were going to talk about sort of being how we get to this sustainable kind of place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there is that element of needing to carve out time for ourselves to have these conversations, to make these decisions. And if we are on that hamster wheel, as Caroline described, we've almost got blinkers on at the same time, haven't we? And we're just, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's just go, 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 go on to the next thing. And it can be really difficult, you know, and you know, I don't feel lucky that I was put on furlough at all, but it did give me time and space to breathe and think and reassess. And that can be really helpful. So, you know, whether it is taking some time off and really thinking about it, whether it is engaging a coach and having somebody hold up a mirror and help you through these conversations, whatever it might be, it is helpful to have that time and space to really breathe and think about what is the impact that you want to have, what kind of role is it that you really feel like you should be in, and how can that be personally and professionally sustainable to ensure that your well-being is also being looked after, because we just cannot do our best work or be there for ourselves or our families if we are pushing ourselves to the point of burnout. And you know, we've got myself and Caroline got lots of clients that are in the position where they are, you know, at risk of burnout or have burnt out and have taken that step to reach out to get support. And you know, we know that it gets to a point for some people where their brains just stop working, where they just cannot give anymore. They've been giving in their personal lives, giving in their professional lives. It just reaches a point where, you know, the wires in our brain just go, no, enough, I can't do this anymore. So it was really important, and through both of our personal experiences of this, it's very easy to explain it in hindsight, I guess, but when you're in it, it can be so difficult to see the importance of giving yourself that time to rest and to recognize resilience is super important, and then to kind of rebuild what you want the future to look like, I guess. So our next question to put to you in the chat, or if anybody wants to speak out to the group, you're more than welcome as well. Just pop your hand up and we'll unmute you. It's a big one again, guys, but this is why we're here, right? So the question is, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you change? Huge, right? Let yourself have a chance to think about that for a second. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you change? So either pop something in the chat or put your hand up and we'll have a chat about it. But give yourself a second to really think. It took me a little while to really kind of come up with an answer. Let yourself dream a little bit. Sit with that for a second. Okay, so someone in the chat has just put, I would take voluntary redundancy and I would go for it. I love that energy. That's amazing.
That's me.
That's so good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So that's on the cards for you. You've got lots of support in the chat for that. What do you mind? Are you happy to talk? You did unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Any pressure? So by go for it, what do you mean by go for it? Have you got an idea of what it might be?
Yeah, so I'm kind of at the stage where, yeah, I've been kind of building up my own business. Like, I've got a baking business that I've been doing kind of like part-time alongside my fundraising job. And at work at the moment, we're going through this big redundancy process, and the whole structure is going to change. And I've kind of reached the point in that job as well where I can't really progress anymore. And I've been trying for a couple of years, and I just feel a little like I've been a bit stuck, but probably kind of kept with it because it's like safe and it's easy.
Yeah.
But I've got the opportunity to work with a friend who's doing some freelance, and it would give me more time to do my baking stuff, but then still keep up with kind of like my fundraising kind of thing as well. So I think if I knew I wasn't going to fail, I would take the voluntary redundancy, leave kind of in a good position, and just go for it and try and make both work, and hopefully have more time for family and stuff at home. But yeah, it's just that kind of making that leap. And yeah, we're in the middle of the consultation process at the minute, so there's lots of like decisions to be made and kind of outcomes that we're waiting to hear about. But yeah, sorry, I feel like I rambled a little bit there.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's super brave of you to be on this forum and share that. And I think it's definitely sounds very familiar to me, and something that I very do much understand. And I guess a question for you to ask yourself is, and you don't have to answer this in this forum, but perhaps, if not now, when? You've got quite really great creative options there, and I know who you're talking about as well, so I
yeah,
probably a good option. But I think, just spending some time during the process of going through the consultation to think about what you do have control over again, because it can feel like you're going with the process and you're going with the tide, and whatever you get told throughout that process is what you have to accept. But actually, we have a lot more control than what perhaps we are led to believe. Really focusing on what you do have control over, because it's your life and the decisions are yours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a look at what else is in the chat.
I was just going to add as well, and this is for everyone who's shared anything in the chat, is to just tune into how it makes you feel when you said that. So, I would take voluntary and go for it. Like, how does that feel in your body? And just really listen into that and allow that to guide you as well. Because sometimes when we really connect with those things we want to do, it's like our body tells us like, yes, that's the right thing, and we can come up with all sorts of, but yes, but, and I'll talk to that in a minute, but allowing yourself to really feel into it.
We've got gut feelings for a reason, haven't we? And I think our brains have developed so that we ignore our gut feelings, but actually, that tells us a lot.
Super powerful, and really interesting that what's coming up. So many things are around taking some time, creating some space, stop working for a while, have a month off, protect my Monday off. And I love this one, and because I want to do this too, buy a camper van and run my business from it somewhere warmer than here. Do that one, please.
I would love a camper van, but I feel like by the time we can afford a camper van, our children will be too old to want to go in the camper van with us. Oh, that sounds so exciting. I love that.
And there's one comment here about, this is what my dream would be, to do something different and train and do a real career shift. And I know that at the moment I can't do that. And so it's really great to recognize that, and also to let that dream be a bit of a North Star. Like, what would it take? What would it mean? How would you? Because I think sometimes we can just push those dreams aside, but they keep coming back. So, in what way could you bring that in some small way? What would allow you to get a little sense of that in your life now? Because it feels, I can just reading your comment, I can feel that desire in there. And often we can.
It's so important, I think, isn't it? So like, if you want to buy a van, why don't you rent one for a weekend or a week and see how that feels? Like, live the life that you want to live in practice before you take the jump. And, you know, similarly to when I was on furlough, I wanted to go freelance, but I didn't know if I had the skills or the knowledge or the confidence. So that's why I started volunteering for charities in a freelance capacity without getting paid, to kind of give me that confidence that I needed to say, actually, yeah, I've got value that organizations are going to want to harness. And then I, you know, that going back to, you know, because there are quite a few people in the chat thinking about freelance. It is a big jump. It feels massive. For me, I felt like you know, I was in the process of buying a house. I got made redundant at 5 o'clock one day. I got everything confirmed for the house at 5 o'clock one day and made redundant at 10 a.m. the next day. I know that financially going freelance and all of that, it's huge decisions for people, and it feels like a bit of a cliff edge. So what I did is I took a part-time job to kind of be a safety net while I built my business, while I built my freelance career. And when it got to the point where that part-time job was kind of holding me back financially, and the hours that I was working weren't able, you know, I wasn't able to kind of fill my week with the freelance work that I had coming in, that's when I decided, you know, that it's time to fully go freelance. So there's lots of ways of doing it. It doesn't have to feel like this massive leap, and that's with everything, with buying a van, with taking some time off. You know, it doesn't have to be huge. Real change is incremental. It's small changes on a daily basis that build up into healthy habits and changing your routines, and that's when change is actually very sustainable. So yes, change is often great and it has a big impact on your life, but it doesn't have to all come in one big swoop. It can be slow and steady.
Absolutely.
What else have we got here? I trained to become a therapist. I love that. Amazing. So yeah, if that's something that you'd like to do, could you, you know, do a little bit of training on the side of what you're doing now, or find out, you know, do some research. There's lots of things, and we're going to talk a little bit more about action planning and accountability and how to get change going in a minute, but lots of this has given me ideas of how you could kind of go about these things. Caroline, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail?
Oh yeah, so I was thinking about this. I think it's such an amazing question. As I was getting ready for today, I had to think about it, and it was really surprising to me. The thing that came up was I would share my artwork more. So it's a bit like kind of part of me that I don't give enough space and time for. That's something I've always loved doing from when I was a kid. And that kind of, yeah, kind of is, there's no, I was gonna say there's no purpose for it, but there is a purpose for it, but it's not about work, and it's not about family, it's for me, purely for me. So recommitting to it, doing it more and sharing it with the world. And as soon as I realized that's what it was, I was like, so do it. So I have started to share stuff I'm producing on Instagram, and you know what, the world didn't end, nothing bad happened, and it really helped me to kind of see just that one small thing. So actually, you know, you can, you know, it's just a reminder around being a bit vulnerable, you know, kind of putting stuff out there when it feels like it's not perfect, and all these things that actually really help me in my day-to-day life. So yeah, it's a fascinating question to pose myself.
And
how about you?
It attributes to us being holistic human beings, doesn't it? Because I think when we work in the charity sector, people want to see your artwork, Caroline, so could you pop your Instagram in the chat, please? You've got some cheerleaders on the call that want to boost artwork.
So lovely.
Yeah, I think it really, when we do work in the charity sector and we've got such strong purposes and such strong missions, the organizations that we work for are, you know, banging that drum of this is what we do, we help these people, or we do this, or we change this. It can become our identity. And, you know, I've coached people that have said to me, I don't know where I stop and the organization I work for begins. You know, our identities can be so wrapped up in our roles. And I can remember feeling absolutely like that, like it is completely all-encompassing. So doing something like you know, doing more artwork, or focusing on a hobby or something like that, building out some time, you know, your cake business, you know, all of these ideas, it just gives us some breathing room to focus on ourselves and have something that we're pouring our energy into that isn't just work. So I think that's a really key takeaway from today, which we hadn't planned, Caroline, is it, for people to really think about what it is that really brings them joy, and to make sure that they're building in time for that. So my question was a little bit work related. I'm challenging myself this year to do more public speaking. So I'm, you know, a key example today is happening, but I'm signing up to talk at a few conferences and things. So yes, pushing myself out of my comfort zone is what I'm trying to do this year.
That is so perfect, isn't it? Because that's exactly what making a change is about, isn't it? It's pushing ourselves. And I wanted to speak to a little bit to this, sort of like why change can feel so hard. And it's exactly this, like even when the status quo feels really uncomfortable, it's still our comfort zone. It's known. You know, so like when I was talking about my experience back in 2017, you know, knowing how it worked where I was, and knowing that I had made it work with my life, kind of felt like, well, I know that works, that's safe. What if stopped me for the longest time. So this, and it's really that is our brain trying to keep us safe. You know, it's a very natural and normal thing to not want to go out of that comfort zone, because that part of our brain that's all about survival is saying, stay safe, stay alive. What we know we can deal with. But my experience, and the experience of many, many people I've worked with in coaching, is, and on the other side of that fear, when you stretch out of that comfort zone, is joy, deeper satisfaction, new exciting challenges, and stepping much more into your potential. So I think there's, you know, we've really got you up close and personal with the challenges that you're experiencing at the moment, and it's really important to kind of feel into those and get motivated by what you want to change. And it's important to recognize the fears and know that, yeah, these are some things that I'm worried about, and some very, very important practical questions around finances, and you know, how do I really pull together what it is I want to do, you know, things that are really important to consider. And alongside those, to get really up close and personal with what's the potential, what could happen, what if it's a raging success, what would that be like? So allowing space for that, as well as the kind of what if, you know, the positive what ifs, as well as the fearful what ifs. Because that's what can drive us forward. Sorry, Bethany.
No, I love that you know, what ifs can be positive too, can't they? That's so important. I think we're, hardwired to think about all of the scary things that could happen if we make a change. But actually, what if it works out? What if it's better than what you're experiencing now? And I think a lot of the challenges that people have shared today, and the challenges that we have experienced ourselves, Caroline, are really tough. So actually the likelihood of making a change and it being better than what you're experiencing now is probably quite high. And letting yourself believe that, actually. So making a change is hard, as Caroline's just spoken to, and it can be a real struggle to make a change on your own, which I'm guessing some of you recognise because you're here today. You're here to talk about it in a forum about change with people that have made changes, that help people make changes, and it can be really tough to be alone in that. So, you know, emphasise that there is space. I want to emphasize today that there is spaces out there for people to have these conversations. There are supportive, safe environments for these kind of conversations to happen, and me and Caroline are really passionate about creating those for people, so that you can make these changes in really productive ways. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the methodology that I use in my coaching sessions with clients, and I've got a few clients on the call today that will be nodding along saying I've got one of those. So what I use with my clients is action planning. So my coaching is very holistic. It's very much about, you know, having conversations that you need to have in that moment. But what we have to guide us through that is an action plan. So we put together goals that are wanting to be achieved. We look at some focus areas around that. So if it's going freelance, what are those focus areas? Are they things like, you know, perhaps looking at going part-time so you can build that up? Or is it doing some research? Or is it doing, you know, some networking, reaching out to people? What are the key focus areas that you know that you're going to have to give some time, energy and attention to actually get you to that goal? And then breaking that down week by week or month by month, depending on the speed of which you want this change to happen, and having really tangible things that you're going to action in that time. And what that provides you is accountability. It shows you that it's possible because you're breaking it down into small, manageable chunks. I do it myself. I've got, you know, a plan that I have. It allows you also to work out how much you're asking of yourself as well in one place, in one view. So I would definitely recommend thinking about putting something together like that. If you've got a big change or a small change you want to make in your life, break it down into focus areas and then break it down some more into those actionable action points so that it doesn't feel like this massive big thing. Lovely. What's the chat saying? I did not realize that I could do what I'm doing and still have doubts. Yeah. However, if I hadn't made the change, I'd still be wondering. Yeah, absolutely. So somebody that's made the jump, guys, they've made the change. Caroline, you wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of some other change strategies, didn't you?
Yes, I think what you've spoken about there, gosh, is such an important tool, such a valuable tool, you know, kind of that, and to help you stay accountable and to really feel like you're moving, getting that forward momentum, moving towards. It's a really important element of it. And there's sort of a number of things that are required for us to be able to make a change. So yeah, having the steps is important, but we really need to be clear on what are we moving towards? What is that North Star? I know you've spoken about North Star, Bethany. It's like, what is it I really want for my future, whether that's career, life, you know, getting the camper van, whatever it is, you know, there's your North Star. That's what's driving you forwards. Yeah. And then, you know, yes, the steps that are going to move you towards it. It's that kind of what, but also why. Why is that so important to you? Why is that burning desire? What is it about it that feels important? How are you going to move there is the action planning piece. And that also really helps you to be clear what you're no to. You know, when you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the steps along the way, we can start to set those boundaries that can feel so hard. And we saw that up at the right at the front of the call, where people, you know, kind of really feeling pulled in multiple directions. So really being able to set those boundaries and say, if I'm a yes to this, then I'm a no to X, Y, and Z. Often we just feel like we have to be a yes to everything, but our North Star helps to keep us on track. And wanted to give you a little bit of you know, kind of a moment, a bit of space, because we talked about that need for space to kind of think about this, to take you through a short process to get to get familiar with that vision for yourself, so to be able to start to bring that to life, to give it a little bit of space to breathe, so it can start to motivate you towards the change that you want to make. So if you're comfortable to, and feel free to keep your cameras on or turn them off, it's completely up to you. We're going to ask everyone to get nice and comfortable in your chair, and I'm going to take us through a quick process, just a couple of minutes, to get connected with your vision. If you're comfortable to, you can close your eyes. If not, then just so relax your gaze downwards to give yourself a chance to just go inwards a little bit. So feel nice and comfy on your chair, lean back, allow yourself to relax. Feel your feet firmly planted on the floor. So allow yourself to have both feet on the floor if you can, and feel yourself really connected to the ground. It's almost like you've got tree roots growing down into the ground, anchoring you into this moment, feeling the energy of the earth, that grounded, solid, loving energy of Mother Earth in those roots. Feeling that grounded energy moving all the way up into the soles of your feet, up your legs. Feeling that grounded energy moving all the way up your body and down your arms, into your shoulders and your neck and your head. So your body is full of that beautiful, loving, grounded energy of the earth. And then right at the crown of your head, imagine there's a beam of light shooting upwards. And that beam of light is connecting you with all that there is, all of the wisdom, all of that knowing, that deep sense of knowing, and that connection to all that there is, and that wisdom coming all the way down that beam of light into your head and washing your body full of that wisdom and knowing, feeling connected to all that there is in this moment, feeling that wisdom through your whole body. And from this connected place, grounded and connected, just allow an image to start to emerge in front of you. An image of yourself at some point in the future, and don't worry about the timeline, just allow that image to emerge. See what starts to come into view for you. Just notice where you are, who you're with. What can you see around you? What's important about this? And just notice maybe what feels different from today. How are you different in this picture, in this moment? What can you hear? What can you see? What can you smell? What can you feel? Just allowing it all to come to life around you. What's changed? And how does it feel? And as you really start to see this and experience it and feel it, this future moment, you notice that this future version of you has just realized that you're here observing. And they want to just make a connection with you. They look over, lock eyes with you. They've got something they want to say, some wisdom to share from this future moment. Allow them to come and make a connection with you and share whatever it is they want you to hear from this moment. What does your future self need you to know? Allow yourself to hear their words, trust what they say. Allow it to land. And thank them for their wisdom in whichever way you want to. And just take in everything around you one more time, just allowing it all to seep in, all to land, knowing you come back to this moment at any moment, anytime you want to. And allowing yourself to come back and back and back into the here and the now, feeling your feet on the floor, your bum in your seat. Take a nice deep breath and blink open your eyes. And capture anything that you feel is important and that you would like to from that moment. Maybe jot it down on a piece of paper. Allow yourself to just recognize and trust whatever came up for you. Don't worry if it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Sometimes it's a bit abstract. That's okay.
Thank you so much for that, Caroline. That was so powerful. I can see everyone, most people have got their cameras off, so they're in the zone. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. If people feel happy to perhaps pop in the chat how that made you feel, anything that came up, you know, that in itself can be quite led by you. So any descriptive words, anything that you that came up for you in that visualization, let us know.
And I mean, I could quickly, I would say that I did a vision exercise back in 2017 when I started working as a coach, of 5 years from now, what I wanted my life to look like. And in 2022, I look back at, and almost everything on that page was what my life was. You know, this is how powerful getting clear can be. Yeah, it really can. So yeah.
Similarly to that, I each December create a vision board for what I want the next year to be and choose a word that I want the next year to be. And I set it as my desktop background. So it's lots of different images. And all throughout the year, I just sort of start to see those images, and I could easily start replacing them with images of me and my family. And it is just so powerful. Already in early March, there's a good few images I'm even looking at in front of me now that I think, do you know, I could replace that with ones of my actual life. So it really does work.
I'm loving some of these comments that are coming through. My future me told me it was worth it. Confirm the choice I made was the right one. Excited for what lies ahead. Yay! So pleased to hear that. Hopeful and determined. I need to commit time to do this kind of exercise so I can learn to listen to myself and hear my own voice. Yes, absolutely. It's so easy for us to forget to listen into our own wisdom. It's so powerful when we do. You can come back to that anytime. You've got the recording, so you can come back and, you know, if it's helpful to have somebody else guide you through it.
No, that's really valuable. Thank you so much, Caroline. So we're kind of whizzing towards the end now, and I don't want to overrun. Oh, I was in a garden wearing dungarees. Oh, that could be my vision. Love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of those. It's incredible, and I can see that you're inspiring each other in the chat as well, which is amazing. So yes, I don't want to run over today because I know that you are all very busy and this is probably your lunch break. But I just wanted to share something that me and Caroline are working away in the background about, and we're very excited. If you enjoyed today, I think you're going to very much enjoy what we've got in the pipeline for you. So first of all, let me just get my screen sorted. There we are. So first of all, if you want to link with myself and Caroline on LinkedIn, you can scan those QR codes using your phone, and that will take you straight to our LinkedIn pages, or just search our names, and we're quite easy to find with our unique surnames, so I'm sure you'll find us nice and easy. So after that powerful visualization, after what we've discussed today about change, you've thought about the challenges you're facing, the changes that you would like to make. And now it's time to think about what's next. So what are your next steps? So have a think to yourself, what is it that you're going to go away? What conversations are you going to have? What decisions are you going to make? What changes are you going to implement? And it's huge, it's big. So we didn't want this to be the only opportunity that you've got support to really put this change into practice. So we've created a next step for you in our Activate Change Masterclass. This is going to take place on Wednesday, the 15th of May, 10 till 1. So it's very much more in depth, and we're going to keep the numbers very small for this to make sure that this is something that where people get a lot of value out of. It's going to be a real blend of coaching, training and mentoring, where we take you through that action learning style session facilitated by myself and Caroline, again on Zoom, so you can do it just as we've done it today, and it will last 3 hours. And it will be really focused on those professional and personal transformations that you want to make, getting you started on the action. So we'll provide you with things like an action plan. I'll take you through how I take my clients through that process to ensure that you've got that accountability. And it really builds upon what we've discussed today. So today we've looked at that need for change, we've done a vision of the future, and we've given you an introduction to some of those change strategies. in the masterclass, we're going to look at really aligning your decisions, the changes you want to make, to your values. We're going to think about that mindset, really thinking about that gut feeling and any limiting beliefs that you might be experiencing, and really unlocking those for you and helping you through that. And we're going to set some goals and some milestones so that it is something that is achievable and realistic. And with the action plan, you can drive that change forward in a really tangible way. And it's a real good opportunity as a cohort, and for myself and Caroline, to hold you accountable to that gently, so that you really do feel like that change is possible. So who is this for? Well, it's probably for the people that are on the call today, although we will be opening it up wider. You've got the first look at what we're providing here. So it's for charity professionals, those working in the sector, around the sector, who are feeling dissatisfied, demotivated, or desire that change. So very similar to what we experienced today. It's about really feeling motivated to make that change. So we wanted to keep this really accessible, and for jumping on today and giving us an hour of your time today, we are also giving you a really exclusive early bird offer. So the full price is going to be £90 for the 3 hours, and we're giving you £30 off for coming today if you sign up by the end of March. So I've got a link for you, and I'll send all of the information out in an email, and yeah, if you use that code, you'll get that money off. What's included is a personalised workbook, so we can take you through all of these activities, and you've got something really tangible afterwards. We'll coach and mentor you through overcoming personal challenges and aligning you with your values. And as I mentioned, that action plan training facilitation. So really making sure that you've got that template beforehand, you can get to know it, and then I will take you step by step through that methodology so that it's a real thing that you can drive forward. And I know I've got people on the call that have made massive changes through using this process. So excited to share that with more people than I can on a one-to-one basis. I'm really, really excited about it. So scan this code or head to this link. But if you don't want to be getting your phone out and doing it right now, I'll send all of the information on email for you. And as mentioned, if you use that code, you'll get that £30 off for coming today, just if you sign up by the end of March. So let me stop sharing my screen so I can see you all again. If you do feel comfortable, pop in your cameras on just so we can end today. That would be wonderful, but no pressure if you don't want to. We just wanted to really say a massive thank you and open the floor up at this point for questions. If people do need to leave it as it is 1 o'clock on the dot, that's absolutely fine. But we are here, and we're happy to stick around for 10 or so minutes to answer any of your questions that you might have. So massive thank you for being here. If you do need to go, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Alison. Yeah. Thank you, Charlotte. It's wonderful to have you, and we really hope that you can join us again for the masterclass to go a bit deeper and get this change happening for you. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. It's been great, and thank you for everyone's interaction. It's been great to read your comments, and I'm coming away feeling very inspired by what people have shared.
Yeah, definitely. If anyone's got any questions, do let us know. We're here to answer anything, or any thoughts. What are your key takeaways from the session today? What are you going to go away and mull over, or talk to your significant others about? What is it that sparked for you today? Oh, thank you, everyone. Lots of love in the chat.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to come off mic. Otherwise, we'll see you hopefully in May. We'd love to.